Welcome. Hello. Welcome, everyone. For those of you that are joining us on the northeast, southwest. Oh, we're on the western side of the world. It is evening, so good evening. And if you're joining us from the other side of the world, it is morning over in Australia. So we just want to thank you for joining us, not only on this week's, but on the previous series that we've been doing for the Renewing Your Mind collaboration. Suzana and I joined together for the collaboration of this book. And thanks to those of you that supported, it is a bestseller. And if you haven't grabbed your copy, you can go on all the major online book platforms to grab one. It's also available at renewingyourmindbook.com. And we have a very special guest for you today. I'm excited because it's been many years since I've been able to have a conversation with today's guest. The last time I remember seeing him, we were in training at one of Bob Proctor's training for consultants, and his table was the life of the party, of the room. And I would say he was the leader at the table, in my opinion. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our guest today. His name is Tommy Collier. He is an Emmy Award-winning multidisciplinary creative spirit with over 15 years of experience in the fields of video and media production, television, advertising, marketing, and photography. Combining his passion for media with his purposeful mission to uplift global consciousness, Tommy has served as creative director for some of the biggest names in the personal development world, helping them to elevate their visual brands and reach wider audiences in more and more impactful ways. So please welcome to today's episode of the Renewing Your Mind interview series, Tommy.
Hello.
Tommy.
Hi, ladies. I'm so happy to be with you.
We're
So happy to have you.
we're so excited. So excited. I know this is going to be an exciting conversation, but also fruitful for those who are listening, who are going to be joining us live or watching the replay.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait.
So, Tommy, I know I read your bio.
Yeah.
But if you want to give us a Coles Notes version and tell us a little
Sure.
more about
Okay.
yourself.
So here's kind of my story for those of you that are watching. This is sort of my backstory tailored for those of you who are watching that are probably more familiar with this part of my life than anyone else. So, well, just starting from the beginning, I'm born and raised here in Colorado, United States. I still live here in Denver. I graduated from art school in 2007 with my degree in video production. And then, as you said, I've worked in all kinds of creative industries. So my background's in photography, advertising, marketing, media, television, independent film. And then I started down the spiritual path in 2009, 10. Wayne Dyer was my first kind of teacher in the world of, this whole world of personal development. And then I got into Abraham shortly after that. So that's kind of where that started. And I just kind of gravitated more towards personal development and, success and spirituality and all of these things since that time. I actually did see The Secret when it came out in 2006. We watched it in one of my classes at art school, which was funny. And I sort of remember Bob from that, but my first real introduction to Bob came in 2016. I had a mentor in the photography world at the time who had been studying with Bob for years and attributes a lot of his massive success to, learning from Bob and being coached by Bob. So when I started to be coached by this guy, whose name was Peter Hurley, he told me about Bob and always recommends to all of his students to get into Bob. And I was like, who's Bob? And then I, looked him up on YouTube and was like, oh, it's the white hair guy from The Secret. Okay. So I just started to kind of get more and more into Bob's material. And then I ended up doing Thinking into Results with one of the Bob's PGI consultants who lived in Denver at the time, that I met serendipitously, of course. And I ended up doing TIR with her. And I was just starting a new kind of branch of my business, specializing in headshot photography at the time. And I just blew the lid off of what I thought was even possible with that business, thanks to, TIR, and just had kind of a crazy, year or two adventure with that. And then, you know how this goes, ladies. And the more you get into Bob and material like this, the more you want to get into it. And so I ended up deciding to become a PGI consultant shortly after, that time. It was around beginning of 2018. And I was at the time, I was doing that, coaching photographers who were looking at all of the success I was having and going, how are you doing this? Can you help me do this too? I was like, sure. Okay. Yes, I can. So I did that. And then I just started getting more and more involved in Bob's, world. And I started going to the events, and it didn't take too long before I started to getting a little bit of a desire to work with him closer. And I was seeing kind of, who were his team, like who were the team that was at the events, like, what kind of assistance did he need? And I could see pretty quickly that he needed some help in the media and video kind of aspect of his business. I was like, I think for a while I was really stumped. I was like, he needs to get some more help in this part of his company. But I can't think of any that would be good for that. And then I was like, he needs to get someone like me. And then I was like, oh, wait, that might be me. I think that's me. And so it ended up being me. So I went to work with Bob directly for his company at the end of 2018, and had 3.5 magical years doing that.
Wow.
So yeah, and doing what, you might ask? Well, I was kind of managing all of the video production, YouTube, as well as producing the live events when those were still happening, and then moved into kind of, producing the virtual live events and stuff as well, once all the pandemic happened and everything. So it was it was amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Beautiful journey.
Yeah.
I fully remember that year because you took my headshot. I think you're still on the site. So I remember seeing the transformation of all the stuff with the branding happening. Mm-hmm. And I remember asking someone, and they said that you had started working with the team directly, and beautiful work.
Thank you. Yeah, it was so cool. I just loved it. Like, it was so fun. And I mean, if we had more time, the whole story, I've got so many like cool little, teachable moments throughout. So maybe sometime I can come and download the whole story, like for an hour, because it would probably take that long. But yeah, suffice to say, it's been a magical few years for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we would love to hear that. So we'll take you up on that.
Okay. Sounds good.
We're having Tommy back to tell his story. I've loved having you. The moment I saw you, backstage, it was like, wow, Tommy is here. And Tommy, you're a person that has that effect wherever you go. Like, you don't even need to say anything. Your energy, who you are, the vibration you bring just speaks volumes, absolutely volumes. So, I echo Makini's words. We are so honored to have you here. And I loved what you just shared, because both Makini and I, we were both so fortunate to be a part of that journey with you. And I really remember when you became a consultant, and it was such a quick transformation. It was such quick results. But not only that, we saw like people were in awe of your results. It was ease and flow. You were definitely an unconscious competent in all that you do and who you are. And that started to open up hope for the more struggling consultants, and things started to change, not only in the consultant world, but also when you started to work with Bob and PGI. And, the vibration that you bring is everything that we teach without the words.
Yeah.
You are a whole complete version. of everything that we coach people with. And one of those, proof of that is also you were asked on stage by Esther Hicks, by Abraham, quite a few
Yeah,
times,
I had,
just by being in
well,
the audience.
no, just once. I've only been
One.
on once. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I've only tried, well, I've tried a second time. I didn't get in the hot seat the second time I tried, but yeah. It was,
Yeah.
that's the whole story in and of itself.
So many stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just is a testament to you living and breathing and being this work. Everywhere you go, that's who you are without even speaking the words. But tell us a little bit. We would love to hear more about your story, more about the Esther Hicks experience. But let's go back to Bob and PGI. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to work so closely with our mentor, the legendary Bob Proctor.
Yeah, it was, I mean, in a nutshell, like, I mean, I've said it already a couple of times, but magical is kind of the best word I can find to describe it. It was an extremely remarkable experience. My intention going in, because, I was a student first, so, I'd heard many times about Bob's story with, going to work for Earl Nightingale and that whole thing. And so I saw this as an opportunity to kind of do with Bob what Bob did with Earl, like going to work right with him. That was an experience that I couldn't have purchased, it wasn't anything I could have bought even if I wanted to. It was something that was really crazy when it all happened, like when it came together and I got that job to work with him. It just felt like everything I had done prior prepared me perfectly for that position. So I was I just felt so grateful to be in this position that not many people, I didn't know anyone else. I wouldn't have been aware of anybody else that would have been prepared for that position in the way that I was. So it felt super on purpose and like I was, guided to it or whatever. So that was just, that was just the getting the job. But then once I had it and started working with him, it was just however cool you can imagine that it might be, times it by 1,000. Okay.
Wow.
So there was definitely, there was times where it wasn't, there was challenges and, of course, in business, there's always stuff, but for the most part, it was phenomenal. And I feel very blessed and grateful because we didn't, we all thought Bob was going to outlive us, I still forget that he's gone sometimes. So what I look back at now, when I was in it, experiencing working with him, it was sort of I kept having to sort of pinch myself going okay, this is normal. This is normal for me. This is my routine. But what ended up happening is even though there's a lot of stuff that I did do with him over these 3.5 years that was sort of, some bits of it got a little bit routine, but for the most part, I only had certain experiences with him once. Okay. So traveling on his jet happened once with him. Certain little moments that I thought oh, this won't be the only time this happened, or I don't even think I thought would this ever happen again. I just kind of assumed something like this will happen again. Well, so many things only ever happened once. So it feels really special to be the fact that I had those a series of single instances of very cool magic moments with him. That was really cool. Yeah. And just being around him, a lot of people, I think if you talk to them, will say, oh, Bob is the same person on stage that he is off stage. Well, I don't agree with that. He was had some of the same, obviously he's got the same, attitude and the same, energy and everything. But Bob was really an introvert. So when he gets off stage, he tends to, kind of shut down a little bit. And kind of close off. But when you're not anywhere near an event and just with him, being in his studio with him, those were some of the the most amazing memories of like being able to work with him in his studio. And I mean, just the energy of his studio. You girls probably went to Matrix at some point, so you probably have been in his studio, so you know. But to be in there when no one else is in there, just him,
Yes.
you know,
Wow.
and me or maybe one other, you know, person. Those were some of the coolest moments for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, you mention you know, the word magical a lot. And that's, you know, I think that's the way we'd all like imagine it to be. But I think it wasn't just your experience of Bob. I think it was the partnership. You know,
Yeah.
if Bob was here on the physical, which he is with us, he would always say, you know, death, there's no death. But if he was here and we had a conversation with the four of us, I think he'd probably say, well, you know, it was also you that brought the magic, Tommy, because we all saw a huge difference in you know, PGI after you came along. So, yeah.
That was probably one of the most surreal parts of this, was that he had such a respect for me that I kind of wasn't expecting. That he was just always so like he just always seemed to make a point of pointing that out or something, or letting me know, like the amount of gratitude that that man expressed just habitually, effortlessly every day, not just to me, to like, you know, everyone, you know, his whole team, you know. That was really special. Yeah.
Wow.
He practiced what he preached, right?
Yeah.
Part of
100%.
we learn with the TIR and all that stuff is, you know, to make other people feel important, and, you know, the co-creation of experiences and all that. He completely embodied everything that he was teaching us, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I really do.
I would love to hear, what do you feel is like the biggest lesson that you learned from Bob?
I don't know that I could narrow it down to just one, but I have a few. So
we'll take it.
I would say like okay, if I could only say one, it would be that he taught me you have to ask for the good that you desire. I think so many people, myself included, and especially, have a disease to please, as Oprah calls it, you know. And so you can show up and be of massive service to people around you, but not be asking or open to receiving, you know, financially or whatever, you know, kind of that energetic exchange. And so I learned from him, like, you know, you have to stand up and ask for what you want. So that's probably the biggest one. But also another big one that he taught me was that you must discipline yourself to rest when you're fatigued. That was a huge one. Another one is to always operate with a sense of urgency, but never rush, which is like kind of an oxymoron, you know? But that's exactly how he operated, which I think was one of the cool parts of like being able to observe him, is he was always very, very urgent, but he was never in a rush. And that was very cool to see. You know, I'm someone who, like, if I'm busy doing something, I will find myself kind of running from point A to point B. He would never, ever run or increase the speed of his walk. He just always had that Bob Proctor saunter, you know? So that was really cool. Those are probably a few of the main ones. Yeah.
I love all of those. I could totally relate to them all.
Yeah.
You know, when you said that, you know, his, well, the words that you used, it's not coming to my brain exactly, but when you talked about doing things with a sense of urgency, but not rushing.
Yeah.
Some of us either don't learn that lesson or are taught that lesson through, I'm going to say, a traumatic experience. Like, for example, I lost my sister. It's like realizing that tomorrow is never promised, right? So do things with the sense of urgency, because, you know, you're taking for granted the fact that you don't know if there's going to be a next week, but also not rushing through it by actually being present.
Yep.
Amazing lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, Bob was somebody that in business, you know, very, very urgent, motivated person, right? So as soon as he's got his mindset that he wants something done and he wants it done this way and it's decided, it's like, okay, now where is it, you know? And there was like several times where we were working on projects and it was sort of I guess, decided that like this would be the day that this project is finished, and I might be like, not quite ready to hit the deadline on time, and I'd be like, oh my God, Bob, I'm so sorry, it's not ready yet. And he's like, hey, first of all, calm down. Like, the work you do is art, and art can't be rushed. As art is worth waiting for, he would say. So it was like,
Wow.
okay. So it's always like, he was always very much like, are you done yet? But also, if you're not, like, don't freak out. Because if you freak out, it's not going to be as good.
Yeah. Love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What great lessons. I'm just in awe. Like, wow. What a great experience.
Yeah, it really was. Like,
yeah. Wow. And Tommy, so as I mentioned earlier, you're one of those people that is hugely talented. It seems everything you do, you just excel. Your photography, your headshots, the creative artwork that you've done for Bob, excelling in your business as a coach, the person that you are, the people that you attract. It's just absolutely incredible. So it seems like everything you do, you excel in. Your genius comes out, and all of us have that genius, but most people don't tap into it. What do you think are the key characteristics that help you personally tap into that incredible genius of Tommy Collier?
Well, honestly, I think it kind of stems from a little bit of a dysfunctional place. I've always been a perfectionist. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist,
Yes.
because I don't think you ever fully recover from that. But for some reason, I've just, even just from a young age, not even because my parents put any pressure on me, because my parents were honestly pretty awesome, but I just always remember feeling like, okay, I need to get straight A's. I need to, like, get gold stars. Very, very, I've always been interested in, like, what I can achieve. And so I think
Yes.
from that, I've developed, kind of like a standard of sort of excellence for myself. And like the work that I do, I'm someone that I give it 100% or 0%. There's no middle, like I'm not happy with anything less than an A+, on stuff.
Yes.
And so I think that kind of is at the heart of it. But I think what this material has done for me has allowed me to not to shift into a place where my self-worth isn't tied to that anymore. So, I'm not less of a person if I don't achieve what I set out to achieve,
Yes.
or whatever, or if it's late, or whatever. But I think the biggest thing that I realize now, and I think I kind of always knew this, even before I knew this somehow, but I think I've got a real awareness of it now, is I just see myself as like a conduit through which this creative energy can kind of express itself. So I keep my ego really, really in check. Like, I don't see myself as this, talented person. I see talented work happen through these hands, and I kind of sit back and go, wow, that's really cool. Where did that come from? So I think that,
Yes.
does that kind of answer that? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I love that you shared, both, like how, you're naturally a perfectionist, but also, that could be detrimental. But now learning that spirit comes through you and it's doing the work, it kind of shows the two different ways of doing things and tapping into genius.
Yeah.
And one feels like real ease and flow and inspiration, rather than hard work. And I think,
and I'll just say one more thing on that. So I spent a lot of time in my, I don't know, I guess 20s, like professionally really grinding, like all-nighters and doing things like that to like just achieve, and that perfectionism was really driving it. And so I've definitely kind of put that at bay. So that's good. So yeah, it is more of like an ease and flow thing now. And I saw I saw like a TikTok recently that kind of helped explain this a little bit to me too, because this was always something. So I'm a proud gay man, And I have something that's called homosexual audacity. So my homosexual audacity leads me to believe that I possess any and all required skills to complete whatever project I have set my mind to, despite having absolutely no previous experience in that particular craft.
Amen.
So there's that too.
Very good. That is so good.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. My motto is, no, I've never done that, but I am gay. So how hard can it be?
I love it.
So you've done exceptionally well. When you were speaking and you know, describing yourself and tapping into your genius, the word awe came up, you know. So I mean, you know, people are in awe of you. People are in awe of your work. But I think we all have the element of awe when we tap into our own genius.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I love the way that you said that. You know, now you see it come through you, and the product, you're actually in awe of what has actually come through you.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
All in audacity.
Yes.
All in audacity. That's
related. Yeah. You know, I think there's like a stream of genius that's flowing to everybody all the time. And it's just, you know, are you tapping into that or not? So I think I've just gotten good at tapping into it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In our book, Renewing Your Mind, you know, we share the terror barrier of how to move through your fear to get to the rewards of your goals or your dreams. What have you done to move through that as a leader? And what advice would you give to those who are blocked by their fear?
Yeah. So I think the first thing you have to do is kind of realize what fear really is and why it's showing up. You know, fear is, I think, something that is, you know, it's a very, very primal sort of instinct within us. You know, I think fear was installed in our brains to keep us safe, you know, from like lions and tigers and bears and stuff back in the day. And we haven't, our brains, that part of our brain hasn't progressed that much. And, you know, it's a part of our brain that takes millions of years, I think, to change. So I think in the society we live in now, we still have that same fear kind of potential within us, but we live in a different world where we're not running from lions and tigers, you know, anymore. So I think you have to kind of just really look fear in the face and really analyze it for what it is. And I also think that something that maybe goes a little bit against the grain of how we were taught about fear and the terror barrier by Bob and people like him is that we're taught that we're fearful of the unknown, which I actually don't agree with. I don't think we fear the unknown. I think if we feared the unknown as little babies, we would all be cowering in the corner all the time. And you don't see that happening. So I think we fear the known. We fear what we think is going to happen about what's happened to us before that we know, you know? So I think that when you realize that too, that your fear is pretty much just you projecting what you think could happen in a situation based on something negative that happened to you in the past, that kind of starts to dissolve that a little bit. You know, and I used to always love the question Bob would ask, like, think about what's the worst that's going to happen. Do you think you'd ever end up homeless? Do you think you'd ever end up, you know, unable to feed your family? Well, no. Then, okay, how bad could it be? You know, I think when you do this work, when you are studying yourself and you kind of get a hold of your true essence and you kind of come to the understanding that there really is no death and that we're, you know, spiritual beings having a physical experience, then fear kind of doesn't hold as much weight as it used to either, because I think a lot of people's fears are really tied to that fear of death, you know, and I honestly haven't felt a fear of death in several years now. At least I don't think, at least much less than I used to, you know. So I think that's what I've done. Just learn more about what fear actually is, stare it at the face, and learn about who and what I am.
So if we have the ability to accept or reject any idea that comes to us, when it's something that we may possibly fear or that we think we're afraid of, we can either allow that or we can have faith and believe that, that's not true. We in the book we use a lot of acronyms, and I think I mentioned for fear. I've grown up looking at fear as false evidence appearing real,
Yep.
and I had to learn after my divorce, like, to face everything and rise.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the beauty of not just the tangible rewards from facing those fears, from pushing through those fears, because everything that I ever wanted was on the other side of what I was afraid of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally true. Like what fear is a mechanism that's designed to keep you safe. And we're not here to play it safe. We're here to grow and to expand. So if you're not afraid, are you even living?
Yeah. I think it was Jim Quick I heard recently say, fear, it's a lie. Another acronym, limited ideas entertained.
Ah, cool. Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. Love all of that. I'm just loving this conversation. We teach fear, we coach people through fear, but just hearing it, from your perspective, and Tommy, it just opens up something. I'm just loving this conversation.
Well, good. Me too. I could talk about this all day.
So can we, and we love it. We just love your presence and having you with us. So you've been in leadership for so many years, being the vice president of the creative and marketing department of PGI. You've led your own businesses. Everything that you do, you've excelled. You've led teams, you've led clients, etc. What do you think? And you've actually worked so closely with one of the greatest leaders of all time, Bob Proctor. What have you learnt the key elements of leadership are, Tommy?
I think there's so many. But it's funny when you asked, when I was looking at this question before this, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am a leader, huh? I don't necessarily think of myself as like a leader off the bat. But I think I am. But things that come to my mind are, like, to me, great leaders, have a responsibility. They take responsibility for everything that's going on, whether it's kind of their fault or not. You can't really solve a problem until responsibility is taken, so I think that's a huge one. I think of, like, adaptability. I think great leaders are exceptional communicators, self-motivated. You have to love people. I think so much of leadership is a desire to see other people win and to develop other people, and help them, rise to their, potential and all of that stuff. What else? Good listener, honesty, decisiveness, trust, integrity. Probably go on and on.
It's interesting that, you said you didn't technically view yourself as a leader. And it's like, you're doing so much amazing work in so many different areas. You're guiding people in media, you're guiding people in photography, you're guiding people even in a photography session on how to take a proper
Yeah.
You're guiding people. So you're naturally leading, but maybe, again, what Suzana said before about you being an unconscious competent, like, you've been leading people.
Yeah.
And you just, I guess, haven't.
Yeah, I think it's just part of my, like, DNA. I think I've been, you know how you say, you ever heard the saying, like, the leader will always lead? Like, so no matter what the situation is, whoever the leader is will automatically begin to lead. Like, and that's always been me, like, in any sort of group. It's like, I always end up being the one who's like, okay, let's get to work, like, let's figure this out. So, yeah.
I mentioned it earlier when I met you at the training, and your table was like so much joy and energy. And I'm like, yeah, Tommy's the leader of that table.
Yeah.
That's a natural leader.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, it's never anything I wanted to be. It was just something that I just, like, yeah, it's just like a role I just stepped into, and I was like, okay, this fits.
Yeah. I mean, we could, like we said before, sit and talk to you for hours, and I'm sure we'll find some excuse to have another conversation with you in the near future.
I would love that.
So before we close today, I would love if you could share, if you have one message that you could give to the world that would help change the world, what would that message be?
Yeah, and I think right now with the world that we're living in, this is the biggest thing. We are so much more alike than we are different. And I think that our greatest task at hand here is to dismantle the illusion of separation between us that really has never been more prevalent than it is today. At least that, in recorded history, I guess. Yeah. So I think that's it. We're the illusion of separation is what's creating the problems in our world. So if we could dismantle that, then we'd be in a lot better shape. And I hope that's where we're headed.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it.
Great
connection.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we are all one. So the illusion of separation is what's creating all the problems in the world.
Yes.
So if we could dismantle the illusion and know that we are all one, my thoughts, my feelings, the way I lead my life impacts you guys across the world and everyone else. And everyone has a contribution to the collective consciousness and who we are. I remember Anita Moorjani once describing it as we are all connected, and in that connection we are creating a tapestry of life. So we're connected. Our past ancestors are all connected to us today. We're all connected. We are actually all one. If you really believe that the energy is flowing through us, the same energy, the same consciousness, whether you call it God, spirit, the universe, it is flowing through us. And Tommy, you spoke about that, with your genius, tapping into your genius. It's actually the energy flowing through you. What a powerful, powerful message to the world, to our listeners, and what a great way
to leave us all with some gems. So thank you, Tommy.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Tommy Collier. It's been an absolute honor, magical pleasure to have you with us. I cannot wait for us to come together again and continue this conversation, because it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of the surface.
I know.
And
Where did our half hour go?
Tell me about it.
Well, I can't wait. Well, I'd be glad to come back anytime.
Thank you, Tommy. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you co-creating this experience with us. And we appreciate those that have tuned in for the live and that are watching the replay. And, this is for 2023. This is the last Renewing Your Mind interview, and we hope to see you all in the new year. And in the meantime, go and grab Renewing Your Mind. It is a guide to transforming your world from chaos to clarity.
Love it. And it's purple, my favorite color.
Exactly. See? Love it. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. What a great way to end 2022 with the Renewing Your Mind interview series. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.